that it would be possible for all speakers to come to an agreement on which rules are universally valid for language games, where it is clear that language games are heteromorphous. And 2, the goal of dialogue is consensus. So, for Lytar, the goal of dialogue isn't always consensus. So we're not always trying to agree on things when we decide to talk to each other. You know, sometimes we play devil's advocate. We're just trying to make ideas. You know, we're just doing like a spider diagram. Come on, let's just throw things together. We're being creative. Sometimes our goal, again, is probably to really annoy the other person. You know, sometimes we don't even use we use certain parts of language which don't really have what we consider a cognitive meaning. We just go na 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 just to annoy them. You know, it's not always about consensus. It's not always about agreeing on stuff. And also, quite interesting, that would be possible. You know, it's about possibility. You know, it's not about whether we should. It's about whether it's possible or not for all speakers to come to an agreement. You know, if I'm trying to think of an example of this. So, if you think of say embassies, you know, and Britain wants to go to Kenya and develop some sort of like not Britain, of course, no. Any sort of multinational conglomeration, evil company, wants to come to Kenya, develop some sort of refinery there. Got no idea, and employ the people. They speak English. The Kenyans speak their native language. Is it Swahili? I think. I'm not sure. You know, that exactly says my level of knowledge of other cultures. But anyway, there's what language do they speak to each other in? You know, quite simply. Because if they speak English, aren't they immediately? Aren't the Kenyans brought round to an English way of thinking, or at least if you speak someone else's language, you're using their rationalist way of thinking. They can make you intuit certain conclusions just by pumping them through their own language. And again, well, you speak my language. You know, let's play in my field. You know, you think like I think. You know, or did they both try to find some sort of Arbeiter language, like French? You know, but is that an Arbeiter language? Isn't that close to English? You know, there's no meta language. There's nothing on which they can sort of like come to where they can speak neutrally to each other. They can come to like neutral conclusions. They can only sort of like try and dominate each other in other ways. And it's not just a side point, it's very important. Anyway, but I've shown consensus is only a particular state of discussion, not its end. Its end, on the contrary, is plurality. So, we should just respect differences between each other, recognise them, live with them. And that's the only just way to live. Which is fair enough. I mean, there's some examples where language has been subverted to include oppressive language to the people who've been oppressed by a certain language will come and accept it. Say, you know, if you come across queer theory, the subject of queer theory in English literature, in literary criticism, the word queer is it used to be a derogatory term, still is actually thrown at homosexuals. So the LGBT lot, they took it on, they used it themselves, and they created queer theory for it, and they kind of subverted the major language. So you can see language is also being used as power, but language is also being used to dominate people. You know, to say you're queer, and they say, well, fair enough, we're appropriate that we are queer. You know, So there's, you can see how respect for differences in terms of you've got to understand people in their own language. You can't just call them, you know, you can't just call them queer. When you come to this thing, it's PC gone bananas. You know, these incredibly offensive people who read Daily Mail. It's coming on to this. You've got to respect other people, not just what they think, because they don't think like you. Some guy said this earlier about human rights. You know, can we really apply universal human rights? I can't remember who's talking about Fanon, who's the speaker. Can we apply universal human rights? Some people don't understand human rights, really. So it's not just what other people think. It's how they think. It's how they structure the way their thoughts completely. It's not just what the content of that thought is. So yeah, you've just got to live with it. Paralogy. It's great. Oh yeah, so I'm going to come up with this example now. So there are two, just talk about justice. We'll talk about this in terms of justice and aesthetics, just to conclude with. So yeah, you wrote another book called Le Different. Sorry, The Different. When it's in English, it shouldn't have that on. So otherwise it's Le Different, and I can't pronounce it because I'm not French. So, but The Different, phrases in dispute. So the differend is a case of conflict between two parties that cannot be equitably resolved for lack of a rule of judgment applicable to both arguments. It's a really good book. As I say, Lytar, excellent writer. when you open a book, you say, oh God, how can I explain this to people? You open it, and first line, oh, there it is. And there it is. He's really good writer, really good at defining things, at explaining things. We just explained it with the Kenyan and English example. So when you don't have a meta language in terms to allow people to resolve their differences, so you just let them add no existing difference and agree to disagree in some sort of way, or at least recognise that, or at least tread in a very, very steady way, recognising that they're not on equal ground. So yeah, or you go by Habermas example. So that's Lars's example, the different, and Habermas has got a different example to speak of, which is the ideal speak situation, which is way people should try and approach each other to work. So Jürgen Habermas, the Theory of Communicative Action, Volume 1. Can I just say this completely underlies, Volume 1 underlies the difference between Habermas and Lyotard. Habermas, defines the different first sentence of the book, open it, close it, thank you for doing the presentation. Habermas, The Theory of Communicative Action, Volume 1, and there's another one, and it's really horrible, and he's really turgid writer, and Habermas, really short sentences and wonderful, but again, he's really, really clever. So, a communicatively achieved agreement has a rational basis. So, it's not about, say, coming to some sort of truth, it's about agreeing between things, and even if we can't be rational about the thing which is beyond there, different, we can at least be rational about our agreement. This is where Habermas is coming from. Agreement can indeed be objectively obtained by force, but what comes to pass manifestly through outside influence or the use of violence can I count subjectively as agreement. The old grass is blue. Can't work. Agreement rests on common convictions. A speech act of one person succeeds only if the other accepts the offer contained in it by taking a yes or no position that is in principle criticisable. In principle criticisable, you don't come to some eventual truth to things, but you at least come to some sort of agreement, and it's still criticisable, but you at least agree on it. It's the same sort of thing where Descartes is going through absolute doubt about things, and even though he believes that 2 plus 2 is 4, and he's got really, really good grounds to believe that 2 plus 2 is 4, when he goes to the certain thought experiments of how he could be wrong about everything and how there could be, possibly, he doesn't know, a all-powerful malicious demon trying to confuse him in every way, even though he does believe it, he says that he's not absolutely right in knowing that he's right to believe it. So he does believe it, but he doesn't know he's right to believe it. And it's the same thing. It's got to be criticisable, and we can believe it, yes, it's right, but it's still criticisable, we haven't arrived at anything. So if I have that, it's still performative, like Wittgenstein and Lyotard. When you come to it, it's still saying that when you make statements, we're still performing in some sort of way. But for Habermas, he argues against Wittgenstein in that, as well as there being a performative aspect, performative function. There's also a knowledge constitutive function, and he outlines these as when you say, not only when you speak do you have all these different performances. I open the university, a declaration, a description, it's round and stuff like that. There's also 4 different things you also say. You'll say that you say intrinsically to the way you speak that you're declaring what you say is true, that you're not lying, that it's not that you're not lying, that you've got evidence to back it up that it's true, that you're sincere, that you're not lying, you're not trying to fool you in some sort of way, that you're being sincere. I can't remember the other 2. Oh yeah, normative rightness, that's moral in some sort of way, that it's good to be true, and you should believe it, you should believe what I'm saying, that type of thing. And also general communicability, that you're not trying to obscure what you're saying, you're trying to go for clarity as well. And for Habermas, there are these things also intrinsic to when you speak, which Lyotard has taken into account, and this means that every time we speak we're just looking for agreement.